Hi, this is Nick. I've been working for the last few weeks on a set of electronic drums, and I'm pretty pleased with the way that they came out. I'm still tweaking them a little bit, but thought I'd kind of give a little demonstration of how they're set up. And credit where it's due, this is pretty much what I use to actually set up the triggers. It's pretty much directly from a YouTube video from Sean, the producer, which is a really awesome walkthrough of how to create drum triggers using parts from Radio Shack and Home Depot. The only main difference, I pretty much followed that to the letter. The main difference is that Sean was using acoustic drums, and I think with the intention that they could be turned back into acoustic drums if you wanted to at some point. So he was being very careful not to kind of, ruin the shells in any way. This was basically just intended to be an electronic drum set, so I just kind of went to town wherever I needed to. And case in point is that these drums are actually made from toms. They're 12-inch toms, and to make the 4 drums I actually used 2 12-inch toms. So each one of these, if I take one of these off of here, so you can see, each one of these is a half of a regular tom, and you can see they come off pretty easily. So this started out life as a single tom. This was an 8-inch deep. Basically, take a jigsaw, saw them in half. I spray painted them matte black because I like the way that looks, and then basically following the instructions in Sean's video, you put in. I'll get to this in a minute. This is kind of weird, but this is Home Depot improvisation. You basically put in brackets. You mount a sheet of plywood here. There are screws there, which they're machine screws. On the other side of this, there's a sheet of metal, like from like the metal that they use for making ducts, like heating ducts. You can cut it out with a pair of tin snips, and it's just the same size as this disc. And there's a little transducer from Radio Shack on the other end of this wire here that is super glued to the back of that metal sheet. So basically that whole metal sheet acts as a trigger. On top of that, you've got this high density rubber that's under here, foam rubber, and then a mesh head which goes on the top, and that gives it a feel of quite similar to a regular acoustic drum. I cut a couple of gouges here for the so that it fits onto the frame, and I'll get to that in a moment as well. This frame, actually, I was going to build one from pieces from Home Depot out of PVC, and I priced it out, and it was going to be around 50 bucks. And I looked on eBay, and for 50 bucks I could actually get a ready-made, this is I think Alesis parts, basically already complete with the cymbal mounts here, and the mounts for drums and so on. And for the same price I could get that, and it's fully customizable. So that was the way to go. So I've then basically just made the toms to fit onto that. These pieces here, this is how the how a regular set of drums would, electronic drums would be attached to the frame. They basically have these metal rods. I don't know how well you can see that there, but let's see, there we go. Those metal rods kind of come out from here, so I have the drums mounted on there, and I had to figure a way to make them attached to the metal rods that come out. So this is where this part comes in. This is basically just an angle bracket from Home Depot, piece of rubber tubing that fastens onto there, and then that whole thing slides onto that metal rod and snaps into place on the frame. Same thing on this side. I have to kind of glue these pieces of tubing onto there because they always come off. But this one goes on here. Slide it up into place. There we go. It's nice and quick and easy. The cymbals are they are Pintec practice cymbals. They you could use pretty much anything. Again, they use one of these Radio Shack transducers. It's fastened to the bottom of them. I'll just take this one off for a minute. I used parts from Radio Shack and from Home Depot again. On the back side of here, you'll see, here's the transducer from Radio Shack. These things don't glue very well, so I actually screwed it onto there and made a connection here. This is Radio Shack parts, just so that I could take it all apart nice and easy and put it back together. This is cut from a mouse pad, an old mouse pad, and epoxied onto the top here. Because these things, if you hit those with a stick, it makes a pretty loud noise. Up against the mouse pad it's much quieter, so you don't get a lot of clicking sound in the room when you set them up that way. So basically this then snaps right back on here. That's it on first. The main thing that I had, which I was lucky to have to start out with, is that I had the drum module already. So this down here, probably can't see it so very well, but down underneath there is an Alesis. Let me bring the camera down a little bit so we can take a look. There's an old Alesis D4 drum module tucked away down there. And I had that sitting around for years and had not been using it. So I finally put it to good use with this project. And it's an old module. You can pick them up for under $100 on eBay pretty regularly. I had that already, so I had a good start on this whole project. I think the whole thing pretty much cost me about $200 to $250. And given the way that the pads are set up and so on, I think it's got the kind of feel of one of the higher end, like $1,000 plus sets. It isn't as powerful as far as like zones and things like that, and of course the D4 module is an older one, so the sounds aren't state of the art, but they're still pretty good. I'm going to plug it in and you can see how it sounds. Okay, I almost forgot to mention one interesting part of this kit, which is the kick drum. And the kick drum is this right here. I don't know if you can tell, this is actually an old tambourine, little mini tambourine, like a 5-inch, set up exactly the same as the toms with mesh and the metal and plywood plates in there. The plywood forms the back of it. And then there's just kind of a setup of chunks of wood here that you can attach a regular drum pedal to. So that is the kick drum, and of course a 1/4-inch jack in the back to connect it up to the system. Okay, so to give a quick idea of how this sounds, and the main thing is, not really a demonstration of the D4 module so much as the drums themselves, and you can see they're fairly sensitive. I'm still tweaking the sensitivity a little bit to get them just right. If you set them too sensitive, then they're set off by hits on other drums and so on. But you can see that they are picking up the quiet hits as well as the loud ones, and you can get those hits quite close together. So if you're actually capable of doing the military type rolls, which I'm not, you can do that sort of thing. Same thing with the cymbals. They have quite a range of sensitivity. And the hi-hat is fun. It has a foot pedal that goes along with it. So you have the open hi-hat if you just hit it normally. If you click on the foot pedal, you get that choke sound, and if you have your foot on it and you hit, you get the closed hi-hat sound. So you can actually get some semi-realistic hi-hat sounds out of that. This is the point where in the videos on YouTube people always say, oh yeah, I'm a terrible drummer, and then they start playing and they're fantastic. I really am a terrible drummer, so I apologize for this, but just to give you an idea of how this sounds, here goes. Yeah, still getting a couple of double hits here and there. Got to adjust the sensitivity a little bit more, but that's a standard kit that I set up. The D4 has a bunch of different sounds, you know, different kits, so that's a slightly different one. There are some, you know, a few different sort of what I'd call acoustic sets, but and some of them with effects, some without. And then, you know, there are some kind of effects type things. This is like a Simmons electronic set. There are some kind of fun things in here, like one of my favorites is industrial. And in addition, there are also some kind of funky sort of chromatic sets like this. But yeah, all around it's kind of, you know, still adjusting it, but for what it costs, I think, as I say, you know, 200 to 250 for me. I already had the Alesis module. I already had a kick drum pedal. Other than that, that was pretty much everything. So it might be as much as 400 to 450 if you had to build it from scratch. But all in all, given the flexibility of it, the sensitivity of the pads, and so on, it's a pretty good way to set up an electronic drum set on the cheap.